Showtime?
Go for it, Mayor.
Okay. This meeting is called to order. Gold Hill City Council work session, October 18th, 2021. Who do we have in the queue, Marvin? Public input. We'd like to hear from the community.
Actually, Mayor, I think the city manager wanted to start off by talking about what was on the agenda and then hearing everybody's input.
All right. So Jerry, why don't you start off by going through the proposed budget and a quick and dirty rationalization for each one?
Okay. First off, good evening, Mayor, members of the council. As you know, tonight's work session is pertaining to MRMPO funds that have been awarded to the city for transportation-related projects. And in our meeting with MRMPO, transportation can be a very vague term, but we've tried to make all of the suggestions that staff came up with transportation-related. So as we go down this list, I'll talk about each item quickly, and then I'll talk about the suggestions as well. As you can see on the budget, there's two trucks there, a 3/4 ton and a 1/2 ton. The transportation connection, obviously, the trucks are used to transport personnel, materials for either street repairs, storm drain repairs, park repairs.
Put your other earphone in, will you please put that in your.
Carol, can you mute your mics?
And also to transport equipment. As you know, the two pickup trucks that we're using now, one's a 2001, so that makes it 20 years old. One's a 2007, makes it 14 years old. The 20-year-old truck is only worth $1,600. Just 2 weeks ago, we performed almost $3,000 worth of repairs on it. It's getting to be where our repairs are costing more than the value of the vehicle themselves. That includes this week as well. We're continuously throwing money into vehicles that the cost of repairs are exceeding the value of the equipment. These were placed on this budget simply because these are items that are very difficult. All of the items I'm going to initially speak about, these are items that are very difficult to get through grant funding. And as you know, our general fund is very limited, and I can't envision the city being able to purchase this stuff in the future with general fund monies. After that is a mulching attachment for an excavator. You, the city council, authorized the purchase of an excavator for this fiscal year. And that purchase has been made. It has not been delivered yet, but it's mainly to help eradicate fuels for fires, primarily along the borders of the city and along the bike trails. This mulching attachment is just part of that purchase, or will be part of that purchase, so we can mulch what we eradicate. A leak detector is an item that is used obviously to detect leaks. Currently, when we have someone come out to try and detect a leak, it can cost the city $500 to $700 per visit. Obviously, this would pay for itself in just a few visits. It's a piece of equipment that we should have, which would make our repairs more timely. We wouldn't have to wait for a contractor to come out and use their equipment. And of course, we'd be saving the city money with the use of our own. John Deere Gator utility vehicle, just something to help us traverse the trails to transport equipment and personnel, not only for maintenance of the trails, but to, again, help eradicate the fuels for fires and to do general maintenance on our trails. The flatbed trailer, that's pretty self-explanatory, to transport the ATV and the excavator. And then I wanted something to shelter this equipment so it doesn't get destroyed by the weather. A lot of this has to do with the trail, the gator, the mulching excavator. Obviously, the trail is transportation related. People traverse those trails to get from point A to point B. The Greenway is something that is one of the prides of the city, and we want to maintain that. That's why those items are on there. Moving down to the next item is a bike trail repair. As you know, if you've walked the bike trail, you can, or the bike path, you can see that there's large cracks. This item is designed to address those cracks. This isn't a full reconstruct of the bike trail. We just think it'd be cost prohibitive to do a full reconstruct. And so I am told that there are new materials that can be used to better fill these cracks and so they will last longer. Fitness trail equipment. This was something that was discussed when I did a walkthrough of the bike path with the group. Just thought it would be something to get people outside, get them to use our trail, and to incorporate fitness at the same time. Grass and irrigation at the park. This area that we intend to irrigate and plant grass is next to the dog park. It's a large swath of grass. Obviously, it's brown and there's a lot of weeds there now. We would like to make that more inviting for activities. Gazebo roof repair. That's something that has actually been identified by the Parks Committee as a priority for them. I went out there last week. We looked at them again, and they are in disrepair. And we want to get these things repaired before they get worse. And so we added that to the list. The storm drain repair, Swede. The city has learned that our storm drain runs under Swede, the Swede manufacturing property, and it's been flooding their business during heavy rains. It's something that has to be fixed. It's disrupting the Swede business, and this wasn't something that was budgeted or planned for. And we do want to address it prior to the rainy season. So we set aside $50,000 for that. In all, the total is $270,000, which is the same amount as the funds being granted to us by MRMPO. One of the things I wanted to do is we wanted to get community input, and we have participants in tonight's meeting. But as I spoke with people over the last couple of weeks, any suggestions or ideas that were presented to me either in person or through email, I tried to get them listed on your list to be considered as well, because our list is not all inclusive. It was just staff identifying what we felt the city needed. But obviously this is a council decision, and with the input of the community. Technical assistance for evacuation plan, and I'll couple that with the evacuation materials. One of the things that was brought up is if we do have a natural disaster or even a wildfire, we need a comprehensive plan to evacuate. And we currently do not have that, and included with that plan would be evacuation materials such as signs, flares, whether it's protective clothing. The technical assistance is basically hiring a consultant to do it. So we have a consultant. Hopefully we can get a consultant who is familiar with our neighboring communities and try and combine and make sure that we're consistent with other communities. So that's what technical assistance will do. Sidewalk repair, that's been mentioned a few times. As you're aware, sidewalk repairs are very costly. And I put the amounts of $20,000 to $100,000 because it all depends on the length of the sidewalk, location of the sidewalk, et cetera. Another reason for the expense is when we put sidewalks in, we have to make them ADA compliant as well. And that obviously increases the cost. So if the council elects to use some of these funds for sidewalks, we would have to have a little bit more detailed direction as far as locations, so we can get a better estimate for those sidewalks. Repair the buckled sidewalks on 2nd Avenue. As you may be aware, there are panels of sidewalks that have lifted up from roots of trees, and it's been suggested to use some of these funds to repair those buckled sidewalks. Now, the amount of $15,000 is if we do the work in-house, and we are that amount is based on whether or not we can lift the panel up without damaging it, eradicate the root, grind it down, and then place the panel back. If we can't, then we'll have to obviously form it, pour concrete, and just do a full repair. The downtown plant project, Obviously I wasn't here, but it's my understanding that we had more plants in the downtown area, and we set aside, or we identified about a $4,000 cost to place more plants in the downtown area. Library park improvements, there's actually two items there for $5,000 each. General library park improvements, and then lighting and electricity for library park. As you know, the holiday season is coming. We're already having challenges finding power for those events, and it's been talked about that it'd be much easier if Gold Hill had our own power source and lighting in that park, so we wouldn't have to either run extension cords to neighboring businesses or try to get assistance from the county, which has not been successful. So we added that. And finally, a big conversation about the Powerhouse abatement or renovation. There's a question mark there because, I've been told there's asbestos there. I did receive some information today via email regarding a study that was done on that. I have not had a chance to read that, but because we're unsure of what exactly it would entail, we just placed a question mark there, and it's there for your consideration. So Mayor and Council, those are my comments, and Mayor, if you have any questions, I'm available. Otherwise, we'll defer to you for the discussion.
Okay, Jerry, so are those pretty firm numbers? You've done some price shopping?
We have done price shopping, and that's a great question, Mayor. For instance, the vehicles, those are dealership costs. And one of the things, if this is approved, I would want to do is piggyback either on state bid or another community's bids. Other communities put bids out for vehicles, and we could piggyback on their bid and not have to go through a bidding process. And hopefully the prices would be lower. So these are the prices that were quoted to us by a dealership. There's this state GFO, and there are other associations that we can look at to see if we can piggyback and take advantage of other prices. The mulching attachment, that's the leak detector. Most of those are pretty close. There might be some that are a little high, only because I didn't want to cut ourselves short. And also keep in mind that whatever we have left over, if we have money left over in each line item, we can reallocate those funds, and we can either move them to a different project that came up short, or create a new project. Again, some of these are very vague. Fitness trail equipment ran from $6,000 to $40,000. The bike trail repair, I believe we have a quote for $8,000 or $9,000, but it's an old quote. So I kind of accounted for any type of inflation or changes in material prices, those types of things. Same with the gazebo roof repair. I think we have a quote that's a little bit lower, but again, these are old quotes, and I just anticipated that they may change.
Jerry, I have a quick question about the leak detector item. Is that just the price of the leak detector, or does that also include chemical usage for leak detection in the future, as well as licensure for whoever's going to operate it?
It's an instrument. There's no chemicals involved, and I don't believe it requires any certification.
Okay,
It works.
I'm gonna need
now.
clarification on that, because I just had leak detection done at my house and it requires chemicals.
Yeah, no, that's not what it's like. You put on these headphones and you listen to water running in the ground. It's sound. There's no.
Okay.
So wouldn't we want to do public input before we get too deep into discussion? Doesn't public input usually come first?
Yeah.
That's your guys' call, Mayor.
Thank you for that concise overview. We appreciate it. We do have quite a few people in the waiting room. So again, I'm going to start a timer at 4 minutes. You're going to get to wrap it up. In 5 minutes, you're done. If we need more information, we'll ask for some more time, but this will go on and on if we are not respectful of each other's times. Marvin, you want to take them in the order they came in? Okay. What order would you like to take them in? Why don't you call them out the order that they called in? Okay, take a stab at it.
Hey, Mayor, if you don't mind, I've got Richard here in my office. He's ready. If you guys are
I'm
okay.
not
with
on
it.
the list, so I wouldn't come up
Yeah.
otherwise.
We couldn't get him on the phone, so let's go shares.
Good afternoon. As part of the Parks Committee, I went over the list to see how well this followed our needs and stuff. And I really wanted to emphasize to the council the importance to me of this fixing the roof repairs on the barbecue area. This is an area where I had volunteers at one time that were willing to come and help strip the roof off, would have saved us a lot on the cost. As time goes on, people move on, and I know after looking quite a few times at them, if we let them go another winter, we're going to be reconstructing the whole thing as opposed to just putting on new roofing. And I just urge you to make sure that that is done. Other than that, I don't see anything on this list that isn't valid. So that's my input, and thank you for allowing me to speak.
Yes. Remember that the criteria for this is that it must be justified to be somewhat transportation related. So let's see, I'm going to just go around the order that I see them on my screen. Lori?
Okay, unmuting doesn't count. Each year, we have done Santa lighting the Christmas tree in the park by the library. And each year I've had to borrow electricity from Swedes and running 200 feet of extension cord to an outlet. And fortunately, this year we were able to fund some LED lights for that tree, which will lower the draw from their place. But they've been very generous, and they continue to be generous. The library does allow us to light the other tree in front, the large sequoia. So we're good there. It's just there is no city power in the park. If we had an outlet and one light, which would illuminate the park, it would also cause security and easy walking too, when we do other functions in the future coming. So part of one of Can-Do's Christmas committee is having more functions than at night in the winter. And illumination is an issue. We've actually advertising to bring flashlights for an event on the 11th. So that's my input. As Richard said, everything else is pretty valid. So just something to put on the docket. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Lori? Okay, Mark.
You're talking to me.
Yes, I am.
Okay. Yeah, the list seems valid. Yeah, I can't really think of anything on the list that the city doesn't need. I pretty much agree with the vehicles. Were we looking at purchasing 2 vehicles?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's probably a prudent thing to do. You know, you get a 20-year-old vehicle, it's probably got 200 and some thousand miles on it. You know, it's definitely time to do that. I do have one question, separate from this grant and the expenditure of these funds. Of course, we get gas tax revenue, and we have some sort of a pavement management repair that we try to do every year, I'm assuming.
I can answer that, Mayor, if you'd like.
Please.
Yes, we currently do have, Mark, we have some streets that are slated to be worked on. I can go over the list. Beeman Street from alley north of 4th Avenue to 5th Avenue, 5th Avenue from Lafayette Street to the west end of 5th Avenue, Jacoby Street from 5th Avenue to 6th Avenue, Ideal Street from 6th Street to north end of Pavement, Kellogg Avenue from 6th Street to north end, Gustav Street from 5th Avenue to 7th Avenue. So we do have some that are in queue. It's just a matter of making it happen.
Okay, so that, yeah, there's funding separate for those projects
That's
aside
correct.
from this grant.
Yes.
Okay. That's all the questions I have.
Great. Yeah, you know, this is a one-off and this is a chance for us to maybe get some things that we've talked about in some cases for years. Haven't found budget for them. Great chance to get them done when we have this money. The other thing that I always think of is let's use this as a catalyst. For example, the leak detector, instead of us paying $500 or $700, if we can have some revenue coming in or break even on that, like with the mulching attachment for the excavator, instead of paying out the rate that it is, which really adds up. You know, if we can pay for it ourselves and then be generating and spinning off some additional revenue, we're way ahead of the game. Steve.
Hi, Steve Kiesling. I'm on the Parks Commission and Planning Commission, but I'm not speaking, I'm just speaking for myself. I think, you know, these are all great projects and we have more projects than we have money for. I have some concern that we're going to run into problems where they just won't qualify because they're not really, they don't sound like transportation. And I think, and we do have some real transportation issues that have been on the books for a long time. One of them on the trails plan from 2004 was a walkway, was to replace the walkway across the front of the Powerhouse. There's concrete abutments there and we could put in, use either, you know, steel or wood to complete the loop path in the park around there. And the other thing is creating handicap access from the bike path to the front, you know, essentially the Powerhouse itself. I mean, to pave that like the bike path. And, you know, our efforts to keep people out of there have failed. But I think if we start to clean it up, if we open it up, we can do something really different. You know, there are PCBs in the ground, but we don't have to clean them up. There was a do nothing option, which we've been doing for 50 years. We just put up a sign saying, don't eat the dirt, we'll be fine. There's probably asbestos in the walls, but it's not, as far as I can tell, that's not it's not like, there's nothing loose. I mean, we can seal it up for very little, but with this money, what we can do is create, you know, it's $10,000 basically to connect the bike path to the front door, open that up, put the trail down below. You know, with $20,000, we could make that into something that we could work on and also raise money for. And if, you know, it's been, right now it's a dangerous eyesore. It's time to do something. And like, you know, we need trucks, but you can buy trucks over time. You can't do this Powerhouse thing without a kickstart like this. And this is, anyway, I'd hate to see this not happen. At least something for the Powerhouse, 10 grand, anything, but something. We got to get that thing moving. That's my thought.
Any questions for Steve?
Steve, or anyone else, has there been any movement on us being able to move that Powerhouse into some kind of a bed and breakfast on the river or whatever else we've got in the plan for it?
You know, there was actually, my wife saw a really interesting photograph of a Powerhouse that was done in Delaware, where they basically just they took off the roof, which we need to do, and it's easy to do, and just had the walls up, and then they had kind of a pop-up little thing in the summer, and that's something that's, if we open it up, that could happen very easily, and it's because over time it's been cleaned out a lot by the vandals and by stuff falling in the river, so it's not that big a deal. It's blackberries, it's paving a trail, it's maybe turning the whole thing into a graffiti art project, you know, because we haven't been able to stop that. But, you know, it's not that far away. And a little bit of money will bring a lot of volunteer effort that could, you know, really could save that thing or turn it into something. Coffee house, whatever. I don't know.
Thanks, Steve.
Anyone else? Carol and Larry. Thanks, Steve. Yes, Carol.
I'm here. You want to go first?
I don't have anything to say.
Oh, you don't? Oh, okay.
You
okay.
do pretty good.
I'll go first. Okay. I, like everybody else, don't see anything on the list that isn't worthy of consideration. The one thing that's at the bottom of my list is the where'd it go? Fitness trail equipment. I just think I've been in places where they have that and it's great, but I don't see that as something that Gold Hill needs right away. And I think most of the other things on this list would rise to the top before that did. So, but I do have some priorities for me that are on this list. And so I wanted to share those with you. The grass and irrigation at the sports park, the gazebo roof repair, and the bike trail rehab and storm drain repair. Those are the things that I think those would be the big ticket items for me if I had to choose 3 or 4 of them to focus on. And I would like to see these things done meaningfully so that we actually fix the problems and not just put a Band-Aid on them like we tend to do from time to time. So if it meant that some things didn't get funded on this list because I could do more at the sports park in terms of grass and irrigation, which I wasn't aware till just the other day that we were only talking about the part by the sports park, by the dog park. But in my mind, if we're going to do that part, we need to do the whole part. And because in order for us to be able to use all parts of the park, it has to have grass and it has to have irrigation. I mean, we can use it with dirt. We were going to do that this summer, but that certainly isn't the best. And it's not the most appealing for a community, I think, to have their park looking that way. So, so I really want, if we fix cracks or if we do the park or whatever we do, I hope that we could put enough money into those things that would really make a difference and give us something that's of high quality and something that we could be proud of in Gold Hill. So the other thing I'm going to sound like Lori's echo here, but as someone who works with Can Do to plan and hold events to build a sense of community in Gold Hill, it's very difficult to do when the facilities you have to use for the events, etc., are not appealing to the eye or very usable due to a lack of electricity, access to bathrooms, those kinds of things. And we have that, like she mentioned, in the downtown, in the city park downtown. And then electricity, I think, is still would be a concern. We have bathrooms, of course, in the sports park, and we do have electricity in the sports park, but it's over where the gazebo, where the picnic area is. And so, and I don't know, maybe I'm probably not right in thinking there isn't more electricity. Maybe there is, maybe it's by the bathrooms, but in my mind, we need to keep making these spaces usable for our community and for the people that are trying to help the community grow into being a more caring and healthy community. And then and I think that is it. I wanted to get clarification. Is the mulcher on this list? Because when I printed this off, it wasn't on there, but is it back on now?
It is.
Oh, it is. And how much is it?
10,000.
10,000. So I must have, so I'm curious. I'm just curious because that, according to my numbers, when I added the previous budget up, it was 270. So now I'm just curious where the cuts were made to get that $10,000 back in there. But I can do that in the budget committee meeting, maybe.
And I can email that to you, Carol. The revised list.
Okay.
Good.
Thank you.
Any questions for Carol?
That was well said, Carol.
Thank you.
Thanks for weighing in. Okay, Paige Pruitt. Do we need to call Paige?
I'm here.
Oh, okay, great.
Hi.
Talk to us.
I'm trying to get on camera. Oh, I'm not Energized South Coast right now. That's one of my contracts. I'm going to try and change that real quick. Here I am. Not part of my work. Okay. Hi, everyone. Let me get back to my screen here. Hi, Mayor Broodbaker, city councilors and staff. I'm Paige Pruitt, and I really appreciate the opportunity to submit comment this evening. As a member of the Gold Hill Parks Committee, I am really excited about the possibilities that these MRMPO dollars are bringing to the city and all of its residents. But tonight I am speaking for myself. Since these funds are specifically for transportation, I would like to call your attention, especially to the bike path, which the Parks Committee has identified as its one of its top, if not its very top priority, along with the gazebo repair. And thank you, Richard, for advocating for this. I do think that is a relevant use for transportation, as bike path users can stop there to get shade and enjoy a picnic and whatnot. And I also really like to hear Steve's suggestions for handicap accessibility. And I just really appreciate my fellow Parks Committee members for being here this evening. I'm really pleased to see that the repairs of the bike path are included in this draft budget. And I did hear Jerry say that the repairs may be of good quality. However, I am hopeful that the council might at least explore the cost of fully repaving the bike path instead of simply repairing it, which would be more of a long-term fix than a short-term fix. The bike path, I'm not sure, I can't recall exactly when it was laid down, but I think it's maybe a decade or more old. It hosts dozens, if not hundreds of pedestrians and bicyclists every week. It is truly one of the best assets that Gold Hill can boast. And since we have an opportunity to do more than simply fill and cover the numerous cracks in the sidewalk, I'm requesting that you will consider allocating dollars towards a full facelift, which will last much longer and be vastly more attractive than patches all along the way. If we do not already have estimated expenses, I'm hoping you will potentially direct city staff to get estimates so that we can more fully explore that possibility. I'd also like to give a brief comment regarding irrigation for grass. And while there are certainly some very valid comments in support of this, which I very much appreciate, I do want to share some sincere and strong reservations I have about this expense. First, over the course of the year, our bike path receives literally thousands of uses, whereas a grassy lawn is likely only to serve a fraction of Gold Hill residents. So the cost versus benefits for that seem questionable right out the gate. Second, our entire region and our state, our entire, I think almost our entire state is in a severe drought. The water it would need to keep a marginally used lawn green does not seem like a wise use of precious water, especially when farms in our valley are having to cut irrigation off, and we all may be called on to conserve water in the near future. Thirdly, grassy green lawn requires labor, both to regularly water, to maintain the equipment, and to mow regularly, maybe weekly, especially if we keep the grass green enough to not also become a fire hazard of its own. Given that we already have extremely limited staff capacity, adding to their workload does not seem to make sense to me. And finally, the purpose of these dollars is expressly for transportation, and irrigation for grass, while we might find other funding in the future, seems like a stretch for these dollars. Richard has also suggested a volleyball court would be a great addition to the park. I think that would be a wonderful use near the tennis courts and the basketball courts. That might be a good place to site that near the dog park, which would require much less maintenance, of course, with a sand court, and would require little watering. So I hope you will consider directing these dollars towards a full repaving rather than a simple repair. Like Carol, I think that the exercise equipment should and could wait. I love the idea, but I think maybe this is not the time. You know, perhaps the irrigation dollars could be reallocated to cover a repaving, if not all of it, at least on part of it. You know, and just looking at the other priority items on the budget to see what makes the most sense. The bike path is Gold Hill's crown jewel, and I think with these dollars, it's a terrific opportunity to make sure that we are keeping it in tip-top shape for residents and visitors for another decade or two. I also
Sorry, Paige, your 5's up.
okay.
Do you have another concise thing to add, or are you gonna?
I do have some information about the brownfields and the Powerhouse. I sent over to Jerry. The Rogue Valley Council of Governments is hosting a workshop for local leaders to attend to learn more about EPA dollars for hazardous site cleanup. We already have in 2016 a phase 1 EPA analysis on the Powerhouse area, indicating lead is a problem in the soil and asbestos is a problem in the building. But these dollars that are forthcoming will cover the next phase of that, and that would be a cleanup plan. It doesn't cover cleanup implementation, but it would cover a cleanup plan. And so I'm encouraging the city of Gold Hill to pursue that, to get involved and see if we might be able to tap into some of those funds.
Great. And hopefully you will report back to us as you learn things at council.
Okay, I'd
Thank
be
you.
happy to. Yep.
Any questions for Paige?
Thanks again for your time.
Well said, Paige.
Could I just add, on the brownfields thing, the EPA gave a $50,000 cost estimate for cleanup of PCBs, but they also gave a do nothing option. And, you know, we can, I think we should realize that, I mean, that stuff has been sitting there for 50 years, it hasn't killed anybody. And the EPA said we could do nothing. It's pretty clear in the report. And I think if you actually read it pretty well, that's a recommendation. So I think rather than chasing brownfield designation, which is a long road to nowhere, we should just fix the thing and get on with our lives. Thank
Well,
you.
there may be something that if it would be possible, maybe to put the brownfield or the Powerhouse on another council meeting agenda, so we could have some time to talk about that. That would be my suggestion.
Yes.
Mayor Studebaker, may I make a suggestion on that as well? And we can leave that right to the Planning Commission to bring that before us right now. What I'd like to see is a motion or how we're going to do this as far as spending this money right now. How about starting or ending at, as far as the new list goes, aluminum shelter for equipment, and make those purchases all above that? The reason being, at every minute that we wait, those prices are going up.
Mayor, if I may, real quick.
Please, Jerry.
Sorry, Councilmember. I did want to get into the record the email that Councilor Bescheid mentioned before we move on too far, because I don't want to miss that opportunity. This is an email that was received from Gus Wolf today at 11:25. It says, "Greetings, Jerry. Welcome to Gold Hill, the best little city in the West. I wanted to offer a few points of view regarding the workshop tonight and Gold Hill in general. I think we should focus on the greatest transportation benefits for the neediest populations. 522 people are either under 25 or over 65, which makes transportation outside Gold Hill challenging. With no medical or banking facilities, transportation is very important for our most vulnerable populations. Josephine County Transportation currently makes a bus stop at Dardanelles across the freeway, which makes it problematic for challenged populations to use the bus to Medford. I propose that we build a bus shelter at the downtown park and convince JCT to stop in Gold Hill. JCT currently says that the Gold Hill bridge is too small for a bus, but I see that they now use a smaller bus, which would navigate the bridges better. I've run a business in Gold Hill for over 30 years and have contracted with hundreds of companies and individuals for a more cost-effective return for my clients. I feel that spending $100,000 on two new trucks and equipment is not the best use of the MRMPO funds. I have a client, SOS Alarm, who buys only Ford Rangers, and he is in 4 counties. Gold Hill is less than a square mile. Home Depot rents trucks for $20 per day, and Woodville Rental in Rogue River rents a chipper mulcher combo for $90 per day or $360 per week. We have historically relied on richer cities like Ashland to sell us their used vehicles, so I would advocate for that approach. I want to wish you the best and am available for any questions. Maybe we can meet up once you settle in. We'll be watching tonight and hope the best solutions appear. Sincerely, Gus Wolf. And again, Council, I apologize for interrupting, and Mayor, I apologize for interrupting.
Any comments on Gus's ideas?
It's no problem with the interruption, Jerry, and he does have some good ideas. However, we will be using those vehicles for a long time, and I think we're going to work those things pretty much into the ground. As far as the other equipment goes, we'll be using it for a lot more than weed abatement. We'll be clearing storm drains. We'll be taking things apart with that stuff. Aside from the rental cost it takes for us to buy or rent one of those things every day is going to be a lot more. You get what I'm saying there.
I thought we were going to get through public input before we got into discussion. I see we have somebody named Tammy who is still waiting to speak. And I still have something I want to read from someone that gave me something written. And I think Danielle has something else she wants to read from somebody that submitted written testimony. So
Tammy is, I believe, our reporter.
oh, okay. Thank you. I didn't know that.
So yeah, are we done with Gus's ideas?
I think we're done with Gus's comment.
Okay. Shall we segue into council then?
No, I have someone I need to read from, and I think Danielle also has public comment that she needs to read.
Okay. Go ahead with your public comment, thanks.
Okay, let me pull it up here. This is from Tanya Baum, who lives on Juanita Court. What is that? Juanita Way, sorry. I'm not, just for her own privacy, I'm not going to give you her address, but she is a Gold Hill citizen. She said, hang on, just let me get to the beginning, sorry. Okay, she said, I want to let City Council know I support technical assistance for evacuation plan. She's citing things on the list, comma, evacuation materials, signs, and sidewalks. I feel our little town is not ready for any kind of disaster, nor have a plan in place for the residents to evacuate the town if evacuation is ever needed. We honestly do not know if or when we may have an earthquake, flooding, fire, or any natural disaster. Anything is possible, and we don't know when or if a natural disaster will happen in our town. As for sidewalks, improvement to the sidewalks or added sidewalks to help improve the beauty of our town. Having a husband in a wheelchair needing good access to the sidewalks in town that are ADA compliant is very important to us. I know the current construction on 2nd Street, Highway 99 provides some of the needed improvements. Sidewalks, in my opinion, will help beautify the town more. As for the Powerhouse, all suggestions are great. It will be lovely to have the old Powerhouse renovated, but I'm not sure if using the funds for this is such a great idea when there might be other opportunities to apply for other grants to help facilitate the old Powerhouse project. I'm not sure if there can be something done with the Historical Society with the old Powerhouse. I rarely add my input, but when I saw the proposal how to spend the funds, I took notice. I like everything on the proposal. I just feel what to do with the old Powerhouse is something that can wait and make everything that is listed on the proposal a higher priority. Thank you for listening.
And that was Juanita?
No, that was Tanya Ron on Juanita Way.
Okay. Thank you, Tanya.
R-A-H-N is the last name.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Any comments on Juanita's input?
Tanya's input.
Yeah. Any thoughts there? Okay. Danielle, you have some public input you'd like to enter?
I have public input from Christine Alford on 2nd Avenue. She would like the council to remember that we should be purchasing our vehicles and equipment from the state pool, and that those numbers are significantly lower than purchase price from a commercial entity. Also, she would like to see this process go on a project by project basis, where the projects are actually budgeted out with real numbers, including labor and bids, and then brought before either the budget committee or the council on a project by project basis, rather than going off of estimated numbers. Other than that, like I said, she said all equipment and vehicles should be being purchased through the state pool and not through commercial entities.
Any other comments regarding Christine's ideas?
That's regarding the quality of the equipment that the state pool is available as opposed to what's brand new and fully warranted and being able to take care of ourselves.
So the state pool is used equipment?
I believe it depends on what you're looking at. I believe the state pool has new equipment as well as used equipment, and a lot of it is coming up at auction. So basically what she's saying is that we shouldn't be going to dealers. We should be looking at the state pool first and seeing whether or not our taxpayer dollars could be better used there.
Jerry, are you looking into that availability for the state pool usage of vehicles?
Well, thank you for asking, Councilor Rigney. When I hear the word state pool, I'm thinking about the state bid process. In other words, there are dealerships or providers that have special prices agreed upon with the states. That's what I thought we were talking about.
That's right.
I don't want to purchase used equipment. Like I said, we need to have, it's time we have decent equipment. But I will, again, look into these co-ops to see if I can either piggyback on another city's bid, or with these co-ops, they have a standard price that they give to people who are bidding these pieces of equipment.
Like I said, the state pool has both used and new equipment. It depends on what you're looking at.
I will certainly look at that, Councilor. Yes.
And Jerry, we definitely need you to sharpen the pencil and be the smart shopper on all these items, as we've discussed numerous times.
Definitely.
We are running into the same problem with to me, it's a big number to pick up 2 new vehicles, but one of the trucks I looked at today had over 200,000 miles.
That's
If
correct.
we're doing $3,000 of maintenance on a $1,500 vehicle, that's not so smart.
Yeah.
So at some point we buy new, and then we've got quality for 20 years
That's correct.
or 15 years.
I would like to make a comment. We can also look at the lease option that they have for cities, in which if we do a lease that covers the maintenance on that vehicle, where we just have to schedule appointments. So we want to look at that too.
Yep.
And Councilor, are you talking about using these funds and basically spread them out over the period of the lease?
Yes.
Got it.
It's just an option. It's just another option we can look. I know a lot of businesses lease their vehicles because of the maintenance is factored into that lease price.
Got it.
Anyone else? I might make a couple comments. Jerry, if you and Jessica could address this, because I know you've been looking at these things for a while. On the evacuation plan, that came up after the Alameda fire, taking out neighboring towns, big deal, obviously very concerning for all of us. I saw something that the county commissioners are taking a serious look at this. Is this, again, given that this is a one-shot source of funding, whenever possible, we, of course, will want to pursue alternative funding sources for some of these things. Jerry and Jessica, what is your gut level feeling on a real plan for this evacuation plan, maybe countywide, being rolled out, and in what time frame do you anticipate that? Might that be something that we could tap for these funds?
I can't speak for the county. I think it makes sense considering what's happened over the last 2 years as far as fires, and it makes sense to have a coordinated response with all the communities within the counties, both Jackson and Josephine. But again, I can't guarantee that funding would become available. That's something I'll have to inquire with the county. Unless, Jessica, do you have any further information?
Jessica?
Yeah, sorry, I couldn't hit the mute button. I know the county is rolling out something, but I don't know their timeline, so.
So since I was the one who actually made the suggestion for the evacuation study, and I would really like to argue for it, yes, is there a potential that the county may come up with funds next year, year after? Yeah, there's a chance. But Gold Hill needs to be concerned with Gold Hill and not continuously wait on larger entities to potentially do it for us. This is, you're right, a one-time fund that we're going to get. And we should, in my opinion, eat our broccoli before we eat our dessert. And having a proper evacuation to get out of town in case of a fire, there are certain fire tunnels here in town where if a fire starts, you're not getting out. And it was the same thing that happened in Talent and Phoenix. And we need to really consider the safety of our citizens with these funds. And yes, there are a lot of really great things that we could do with this money, but I think that our safety and the safety of our residents should come first.
One more.
agree.
Is there
Thank
anybody
you,
that we
Daniel.
can contact with the county to get more of a timeline of when they might be rolling something out? Do we have a contact we can call?
Yeah, I've got all that information. I'll add that on the list.
In the meantime, can we get back on the agenda of spending this money?
I really think we're gonna need a lot more information before we make a final decision. I see this as the beginning of this conversation. This is a big conversation.
Do we have the authorization to spend the money that's above
No,
the list on aluminum shelter for equipment?
This is a
we don't
workshop,
have, we don't
Counselor
have
Whitney?
authorization for anything. We have to submit our list to MRMPO and they have to approve it before they will release the monies to us.
Gary, is that in the works right now?
I'm sorry, I couldn't understand.
Councilor Beach, I'd said we have to send this list to MRPO to make sure we can do this. Is that in the works right now?
No. We have to come up with a list.
Well, and the one thing I'm not sure of is if we can submit a partial budget, get the release of funds for some things and let them know that we'll come back with a list for the rest of the money. That's acceptable in the past in areas I've been. That's a question for the MRMPO. So
Can we ask them tomorrow?
Definitely.
You know, we did get some funds, I think, to the tune of $8,000 and change about a year ago. And we got bogged down in the process, and we still haven't spent some of those dollars. I recall that we were told that it was spend it or lose it. So at some point, those dollars will go back.
Well, let's spend it.
Again, this is a forum to get a lot of information. We've all taken notes and have got some food for thought here. And I believe then that after this forum, we'll adjourn and meet for the budget committee. And we might entertain a motion to fund part of it that we can all agree on and reevaluate the others, or we'll go from there. Is there any
I
more?
don't think we can't really entertain a motion tonight because
budget-
we haven't public notice.
All right. So the budget committee will be meeting after this and we'll go from there. Any other public input? Jerry, do we see, do we feel like this segment is ready to be wrapped up?
Yeah, I've got my notes, and we'll just carry forward with the budget committee.
Okay. Jessica, you've been working on many of these issues for your tenure. Any thoughts comments?
No, we definitely need trucks. I know a lot of people have a problem with the trucks on the list, but I've been here for 2 years riding around in these trucks and we need new trucks. So there, that's all. Everything else on the list is fantastic, but we could really use some new trucks.
Again, Jessica, Jerry, let's put that above the aluminum shelter for equipment. Let's put that before the MRPO all right away. Every minute we waste, the price of that shit goes up, goes up.
Okay,
Well, if we're gonna
I would
start
like to-
talking about prioritizing a list, I want to put the evacuation list, the evacuation plan at the very top. That's been really, really strongly mentioned by the public that that's really important to them. And I think it's transportation and it's public safety. It really needs to be on the top of the list, in my opinion, if that's where we're going to talk about prioritizing the list.
I think,
Sorry,
we'll-
Daniel.
I think we'll wrap up our public hearing for this. And then we'll begin discussion on priorities and things like that in the budget committee. Okay?
Okay,
So-
and, Marvin, if you're still on, let's go ahead and close this meeting out because I think this link and the next link are the same. And then
Can I
we'll
make a request for 5 to 10 minutes for bathroom breaks before the next meeting?
Yeah, sure. We'll take 5 in between.
So we'll log off, we'll leave this meeting, and then everybody use the same link to sign back on. And then Marvin can be the gatekeeper and just let council and the budget committee in. Does that sound okay, Mayor?
That sounds good.
Right on.
Okay.
Yeah, where everybody can leave, who's not on the budget committee or the council, either way.
All right. Thank you for everyone's input tonight.
You're muted, Mayor.
Meeting of the Budget Committee is called October 18th, 2021. So we appreciate all the input from,
Actually, we need to, this is official, so we kind of need to call the roll and, do all that stuff.
okay, we'll start from the top. Roll call, please.
Carol Holm. Larry Holm.
Here.
Mark Warwick.
Here.
Counselor Palmer.
Here.
Counselor Wilson.
Here.
Mayor Studebaker.
Here.
Counselor Hinckley.
Here.
Counselor Bishad.
Here.
Counselor Rigney.
Here.
Counselor Ginaw. All right, we have a quorum.
Great. Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Okay, Budget Committee, MRMPO funds. We have a proposed budget of $270,000. Jerry, why don't you start off at the top here? What are our options for this meeting now?
Well, I'm not familiar with the budget committee, but it's my understanding this committee basically approves the budget. I know there were concerns as to whether we needed to present a full budget or if we could present to the MRPO a partial adopted budget. My recommendation is if the council can't come to a consensus on a full budget, if we can just get a partial budget to get things moving, I can contact MRPO, and if they say, no, you can't do it, then again, it's chicken soup, no harm. We'd come back and do all of it together. But if they can do it, if they'll accept that, then at least we can get the ball rolling and start getting some things done. My concern about delays is, as Councilor Rigney mentioned, that the cost of materials, the cost of equipment, we just don't know if it's going to go up. I don't think it's going to go down. And the other thing is I just want to get some stuff done.
I'd like to add something just for technical purposes. At the very least today, I'd like the budget committee to make a motion to accept all of this funds and just put it as a line item in the general fund so that it's in the budget, and then we can figure out where to allocate it out from there. But at least tonight, get it put into the budget.
So
How can we do that when we don't have it? I mean,
Well, we don't have a lot of the revenue when we budget for things. It's just what's the word? Estimated?
We base our budget on a commitment, or anticipate or forecasted revenues. I don't think this is any different. The MRPO says that it's there. We just need to, the money's there. They just have to accept our transportation projects. So even if we go to them and they don't like 3 of the projects worth 75,000, that doesn't mean we lose the 75,000. It's still there. We just have to reallocate it. So, and if that's what we need to do to get it placed into the budget, I think we're fine there.
So Jessica, you're suggesting, Jessica, that we put this into the 21-22 budget?
Yes, the current budget, because right now there's no line dedicated for this revenue in our budget. So we just put it in the general fund, and from the general fund, it can be used for multiple projects across the funds. But that way it has a line in our actual chart of accounts.
Okay.
I thought it was, it's my understanding that this grant, 270,000, has to be separate because we have to show how we're spending that money. And if we add it into the budget in like the general fund that you're saying, who's gonna track that money?
Oh, no. When I say put it in the general fund, I'm just saying in the general fund, and I will assign it a specific account number It will have its own account number and all of that money will be tracked to wherever it goes. Yeah, we're not going to lose sight of it. I just want to put it in there as anticipated revenue.
Danielle.
Thank you. So I would like to clarify, the Budget Committee is an advisory body. No decisions can be made other than to refer something to council, which would then be decided on at the next council meeting. So no actual council decisions can be made nor decided upon in the Budget Committee meeting, not until the meeting in November.
That is correct. But I would like the Budget Committee to make that motion to recommend it to the council at the next council meeting.
I so move.
I second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Carol Holm,
Yes.
Larry Holm,
Yes.
Mark Warwick,
Yes.
Counselor Palmer,
Yes.
Counselor Wilson,
Yes.
Mayor Studebaker.
Do I count?
You do for Budget Committee. You are a member, you're a full-fledged member of the Budget Committee and you can vote.
Only if we need you to count.
Yes.
Counselor Hinckley,
I need the movement clarified and restated.
Would you repeat the movement, please, Jessica, as stated?
so I believe Carol moved that we put a line in the general fund for the anticipated revenue of the MRMPO grant money.
Yes.
May I get a clarification as well, Jessica, Jerry? This funding is not in our bank account right now. It is anticipated.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Counselor Bescheid,
Yes.
Counselor Rigby.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. Thank you. That was the only technical part. Now from here, you guys do what you want.
Mark.
I found the basically the state of Oregon procurement for vehicles. I found the pricing list. Let me give you an example here. Now, there may be a couple hoops we'd have to jump through to be able to utilize this process. This is looking at Ford pickups. So this will give us an example of what we might be looking at. I'm just going to pick one. F-150 Super Cab, which would be an extended cab, 4x4 XL, 6.5 foot box, $24,276. That's a half ton. 3/4 ton. I'll just pick the same one. F-250 Super Cab, 4x4 XL, 6.75 foot box, $28,792.
Mark, could you give us a year?
The 3/4 ton is a 2022 and a half ton is a 2021. So, and that says here on the list, price does not include, and I don't know the details of it, does not include privilege / US e-tax or CAT, whatever that means. That's an acronym for something, but.
So Jerry, you will definitely spend some time on that, evaluating what our options are. I mean, we certainly don't want a 3/4 ton pickup with a 5-foot bed. So we'll want to get what we need and then sharpen the pencil and let's search around. I have a friend who just bought a Ford F-150 and didn't pay $24,000. So I don't think that's all the expenses entailed, but good job, Mark, of if you would please send Jerry that link.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Awesome.
And again, there may be a hoop or two to jump through to get through this procurement process and get linked up with the state to be able to do this. And for Ford pickups, and not that I'm advocating for a particular brand or not, actually the dealer is Butler Ford in Ashland. So yeah, I'll send that to you, Jerry.
Thank you very much.
I'll do that after the meeting.
Yeah. No, any prices we can knock down, I'm all for it, because obviously that means there's more that we can do with the money.
That might save us 40% off of these other prices that we got
Absolutely.
by the time.
And yeah,
And I
You
will
know,
get
Mark-
the pure,
go ahead, Councilor.
I'll get you the I cannot say that word.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Site for the other equipment as far as like the ATV and stuff like that, because I know there's a government site for that as well. I just don't have the site in front of me, and I'll send it to you.
Awesome. Thank you.
I'm glad you're finding all this way to save money on the vehicles, because I think Malia is right. I think we should have an evacuation plan. It should be a priority. You know, I was just talking to Jerry about that. When that Alameda fire happened and our town was gridlocked, if we'd have had a fire that day, no one would have been able to leave town. So I think public safety is important. So yeah, save some money on the vehicles.
But Jess and Jerry and all, it is very important to us. And what we've got to do is coordinate with the emergency departments that we have around us who are going to be in control of the evacuation, and make sure that we've got our plan. We've got one way in and one way out of town. We've only got one way to go.
Well,
Depending on
I
where
don't
it's going.
we filled up we couldn't get out of town, so we filled up a raft and dry bags. Sounds funny, but man, we would have escaped because the freeway was stopped. And I probably got 10 or 12 things you can float on. So
Okay,
first come, first served.
I'm coming across
I'll be
But
at your house,
you would have
Larry.
made it, no problem, but
Bring in
only
my
a
own
few.
boat.
So are we gonna buy a big boat or what?
That's a good idea.
That is Larry, that's an excellent point. And again, on any situation, in any business situation that we're dealing with ourselves or any the county, whoever we've got to have an itemized project to deal with our evacuation plan. What is it going to be and what's it going to cost? Let's see that tomorrow. Any questions?
You know, I agree also that the evacuation plan seemed like a real high priority. I just don't want to be duplicating, reinventing the wheel when the county commissioners have already stated that they are working on a comprehensive evacuation plan with all the moving parts. So Jerry, if we could find out sooner than later on where they are, what's their time frame, what's the scope of what they're working on?
Yeah, we'll do that tomorrow.
One of my big worries with relying on the county and the county commissioners is what happened with the Alameda fire. There are some people who feel that the township's evacuations were not prioritized, that the fire department was actually rerouting traffic through the towns, which is what actually trapped some residents. And so I think that there might be some value in doing our own evacuation plans and then coordinating that evacuation plan with the county and letting them know that this is how Gold Hill plans to evacuate and that they should do their evacuation plans around that. Because I think that the county has to prioritize the entire county. Gold Hill needs to prioritize Gold Hill.
Jerry,
I
being front and center with the police force and your other positions for 25 years, who would be the lead agency that has basically seniority and who's going to be in charge of this task?
Jerry, can I put a question, an answer in on that first?
Sure.
However, it all depends on how fast that emergency happens.
We know they're working on it.
All the more
The question
reason to have
is,
it
we've gotten
in-house.
through this fire season. We're really looking at May of next year before we're at fire risk again. So
And as far as who's in control, it's how fast that thing happens and who gets there first. Okay, the chain of command is going to go all the way up until it reaches the Supreme Court or the Klingon Empire. But the first deputy on the scene is going to be in charge until his sergeant gets there, and on and on.
May I say something? I don't think the county's gonna come in and take a really close look at the neighborhood between Ambrose and Via Linda and 4th Avenue and 7th Avenue, which has 2 exits, Gustav and Dardanelle. I don't think they're gonna micromanage that like it needs to be micromanaged. We need something that says, if you live in these 3 blocks, you take Via Linda. If you live in these 3 blocks, you take Gustav. If you live in these blocks, you take Dardanelle. I don't think the county's going to get down to that micro level. I really don't. They're going to say, okay, if you're in Gold Hill, take the Gold Hill exits. You know?
Yeah.
I just don't trust that the county is going to look at it to the depth that it needs to be looked at. I think we need an expert consultant.
Councilor Beachhead, you're absolutely right about that. And since you are up there and you live there and that is of your concern, why don't you design and see what the, what an expert.
Because I'm not an expert. I think we need an expert.
You've got one way in and one way out.
There are actually multiple ways out of town. And as far as
the way that the disaster is not coming.
And then you get into a big traffic jam at Gustav and Dardanelle.
At
And
that
everything
point,
comes to a dead halt. And you got
As far
300
as-
houses, 300 residences up here, totally gridlocked at Dardanelle and Gustav.
And I'll tell you this, as far as who the first deputy on the scene is, it's the residents when they see a fire and they're getting out of town and they need to know which way they've been directed by the town to evacuate out, because it takes at least 10 minutes for response to get here. And citizens, when there's a fire, especially on 2nd Avenue, that's very visible, are looking to get out of here before those evacuation orders come in.
Carol?
Absolutely right, Councilor Hinckley. And that sounds more like an app with a.
Bill, hold that thought. Carol?
I just want to say, I think this is not the conversation for this meeting, because it's apparent to me that we don't have enough information about most of the things that are on this list. And rather than hash each one of them like we're doing, I would like to suggest that we send the city manager and whomever else might be helping him to take this list. And first of all, I guess I would suggest that we go through and ask if there's anything on this list we don't want him to investigate further. So he doesn't have to spend his time doing something that we're not going to be too excited about making the list. And then I would ask him to go in and really get out the pencil and sharp pencil, like you guys are saying, and really get the numbers sort of dialed in so we know exactly what we're talking about. And then we'll be able to see, we might be able, what we can and what we can't fund. The other piece that's running around in my head is, I don't know what transportation means in terms of this grant. Some people have told me it's loosely defined. Then I hear people talking tonight about how it should be more specifically defined. So I'm just curious to know what are the guidelines, and are those written down somewhere, and could we all have a copy of that? So
Jerry?
we would all work from the same definition of what transportation is.
I can email the guidelines to you. They're very vague. It just says it has to be transportation related. And I'm not kidding. And when I say it is very loosely interpreted, when Councilor Beachhead and I went to this meeting or attended this meeting, one of the examples they provided was a new set of restrooms at one of the parks, and they considered that transportation related. So that tells me that it is very loosely interpreted, meaning that people are using the mode of transportation of walking. They now have some place to stop to use the restroom, and then they continue with their mode of transportation of walking. So I really didn't try to get that loose in this budget. I tried to really be able to articulate that this is transportation related. And as far as sharpening the pencil, I agree. I've presented budgets for a lot of grants, and it's very difficult to get specific numbers. And so a lot of times you do have to base your numbers on a few phone calls with the understanding that if we come under budget, we can come back and say, hey, we've got $20,000 extra. What do you want to do with it? So we have a couple options. We can do exactly what you had said, Carol, or we can approve a budget with the stipulation that if we have leftover funds, then staff takes that amount back to the budget committee to reallocate those leftover funds. So it's completely at the leisure of the committee and the council. Like I said, I'm just trying to get some things done. If we do that, council and members of the committee, I can go back and see if I can get more precise numbers. If we do that, if it's okay with the council, our next council meeting, if we can have the budget committee meet first and then have the council meeting afterwards, so there's no time delay. We're still on the same time frame. We'll know that by the end of the next council meeting, we'll have an adopted budget. If you want me to come back to you guys at the next council meeting date and we have a budget session first, I can report back. I'll email everything to you prior to and let you know these are the new numbers based on the research that I've done. And the committee can meet, look at it, discuss it, and then we can move into a council meeting to have it approved, if that sounds reasonable.
Makes a lot of sense. Bill?
Yes, it does sound reasonable, of course, Jerry, and my fellow council. Are we going to end up having to make this a resolution on a line by line? Are you seeing what I'm saying? We got the whole 270, but we're just having a little contest about what we want to spend it on. Again, that equipment is first. We're getting that equipment, period. The rest of the stuff, we've got to itemize. Councilor Bescheid is can confirm with District 3 and let's say OHP, whoever is going to be running our the emergency control of the situation. She can get with them and itemize what it's going to cost to get our citizens and make our citizens safe in an evacuation. Who's going to be in the evacuation?
I don't think I'm qualified to do that. I think Jerry's proposal talked about hiring a professional consultant who knows how to do this. I think it's more complicated than you think, and I don't think it's something I can just do. I think we need to hire a professional, and that's why that price tag is on there.
Counselor, I think you're all wrong on that. If you're speaking about a simple area of one part of the street or another in a small town, a couple of blocks in one seat, there's no need to hire a professional consultant. Call District 3 and talk to the people that are going to be in charge of the evacuation in the first place. It's going to be the OHP, the Sheriff's Department, and see what can we do. Tell them we don't want to hire a $15,000. We want to know what we're going to do and what the best way is to do it, and then bring it to us. And then we'll decide if it's worth spending 15 grand on or just making a few phone calls. Thank you.
I am not going to do that because I'm not qualified and I don't want to be liable for it. Okay?
You're not
We need a
qualified to make a
professional
few
do this.
phone calls and report?
No, I am not
No, it's
qualified
not
to make
her,
the
it's not
plan.
her responsibility to do this. It's not up to Malia to have to take care of this. So I think you need to drop this one.
If I can offer a suggestion.
Thank you.
I do have some experience in this, and I can see the challenges that we're going to face. I agree with those who have said that if the county does it, we're kind of at their mercy. But I will tell you the challenge with us having our own, is it going to coordinate with the county? In other words, we have our plan and we know exactly what we're supposed to do, and we get right in line like little ants. But guess what? The county's got their plan, which completely conflicts with our plan. So we have to get, if we want to have a local plan, we have to coordinate with the county and make sure the antennas connect and that they work together. So I can see a hybrid where we take advantage of the county if they're offering their services to put together a countywide plan. And then we have someone local who can work with the county and say, okay, county, we know you're doing this, but I'm hired by the city of Gold Hill and I'm looking out for their best interest. How can we integrate so when something happens, we all work together. And then it still may not all work out, because when a disaster happens, everybody forgets training, they forget the plan, and they do whatever they want anyway. But at least we'll have a plan. But I really do think they need to be coordinated. I like the idea of something local that
Okay, Jerry,
Wait,
I'm taking this. I'm very highly trained in this area. All you have to do is call county, get their SOP. We look at their SOP and then we write our own. That's how simple it is.
as
Now,
long
you
as
guys
it
are going on and on and on and wasting time. Let's focus on what is really, we got to get this budget done.
Got it.
But as far as a risk assessment and an emergency plan, those are simple. I've had tons of training on that, and tons of school. They're not that complicated. I'll take the steering wheel on this one.
Okay.
I really liked Carol's idea of going line by line on the things that are suggested and seeing what the consensus is on what we want Jerry and Jessica to go forward with on researching, and what things should be taken off of the list and we don't want to go forward in research. I think that is a good goal at the end of this, is to have a list for them to go forward with, to actually pencil out and get real numbers.
agencies involved. We can't go off half-cocked. If this is a priority, which I'm hearing from a lot of different people it is, then we're gonna want to form a working committee for those who have experience, like Ron. I know police have a ton of experience in emergency management stuff. And so we'll kind of push that to the side in terms of really working out what we need to do there, because this is a whole nother can of worms.
I would like to see each budget committee member actually weigh in and whether or not they think each line item is a priority to go forward, rather than council taking over this, because we have citizens that are here as a part of the budget committee, and we can't just make arbitrary, we're going to go forward with this and not go forward with that.
As I was almost ready to say, Danielle, let's try to take a look at this overall budget and see if we can chunk it into things that we do all agree we want to move ahead with. And then most importantly, where do we think it's secondary priorities and will not take a look at right now? The way that this is laid out, it looks to me like there's a couple of categories plus the Swede problem and then the other suggestions. Given that this was put together with input from all over from the different stakeholders in our city, Jerry, would you say that top grouping of, what is it, about 6 or 8 items, was that your top priorities that your team came up with?
Well, yes. I mean, I'd hate to say that this is like my Christmas wish list. These are things that I've identified that I can't see us getting funding for in the future. And these are things that are costing us money without them. For instance, repairing vehicles at a cost higher than the worth of the vehicle. So I think what you're saying is correct to an extent, Mayor. I would just reword it. I don't want you to think that I don't want you guys to think this is my wish list. These are things where I work with staff and listening to the Parks Committee, the bottom half, the top half. Yes, that's working with staff, saying what do we need to succeed and how can we make things more efficient?
Yeah, and that's kind of what I meant when you talked with the stakeholders, the people in the city and people who had an interest. Mark?
I was just gonna, I sent Jerry and Jessica, I sent you the link to the state website bid procurement for vehicles.
Perfect.
So I think you could potentially, from the pricing you got, we could potentially save $40-some thousand or more. It might be, before a lot of this stuff gets finalized, it might be good to at some point see if we can procure those vehicles through the state and at those lower prices, and then you may have $40,000 extra to do something with. So just a suggestion.
Yeah, thank you.
Great point, Bob.
Janet?
We maybe just possibly go down the list and give a show of hands. Everybody can raise their hand if they're for moving forward, getting more information on that one. And then you can get an idea of what people are on board with, and then go through it, and maybe that'd be done with it until our next meeting.
So starting from the top,
Okay, can I just say, I just want to say, this is not about whether you think it's going to get budgeted or not. It's about whether or not we're going to gather more information so we can make that decision. So that's why your hand goes up. Okay, not because it has to be in the budget. Okay, that's not what this discussion is about.
Well, what I'm suggesting is let's take a look at the different chunks of the items. And if we do think they're valuable, then we give it a yay. If people think, no, that's lower priority, then we'll put it in a different category. We're going to gather information on everything, but it makes sense not to waste time on stuff that half of us don't think is important.
Not chunks, though. Actually go through every.
Just go down the list.
Every item.
But from the top, I mean, it looks to me like, okay, so from the top.
You can't use I or me. Okay, you can't use I or me. This is a we. So just go down the list, and if people want more information, they'll raise their hand. You can count how many and go on to the next one. That's what this is about.
Yeah, the other thing to think about is some of these projects, such as the roof, and I can go on and on. These have been on the table for 3 or 4 years, and kind of like Richard said, it's time to act on some of them because they're being destroyed yearly from us not acting. Let's get something done on what everybody kind of raises their hands on, but let's get something done this year and make me smile.
Okay, so we'd like a show of hands, starting at the top and going down the list of people who think this is worthy. We'll gather more information and hand this off to Jerry. From the top, 3/4 ton pickup.
Yeah.
Strong objections anywhere? Okay.
Don't
that's
ask
on
for
our list.
comments, just get hands raised. That's all we gotta do.
Okay.
You don't need comment.
Pickup, 1/2 ton.
Yes,
Good. On our list. Mulching attachment.
yes,
What was it?
Mulching attachment. He's reading the list.
Leak detector.
yes,
So we have 1 minus there, okay. The Gator utility vehicle.
yes,
Yeah.
Okay. The flatbed trailer to haul the things we're buying.
mandatory.
Okay. And the aluminum shelter for the equipment.
Also mandatory.
Well, we have a clear majority on all of those items. So let's go ahead, Jerry, please dig down a little further. The next grouping, bike trail repair.
Yes,
Fitness trail equipment.
no,
Grass and irrigation at the park.
no,
What was the result on the fitness trail? Was that a no for everybody?
That was a no.
Okay,
Grass and irrigation. Okay, that's a no. Gazebo roof repair.
yes,
Okay. And storm drain repair with Swedes.
mandatory.
I would like to comment on that one, just so that the budget committee knows.
Hold that
We
thought.
transferred-
We'll come back. We're giving a quick and dirty level of interest right now. Okay, so of that second grouping of things, the fitness equipment and the grass and irrigation did not make the cut. Okay, the last other suggestions, evacuation plan.
Not at that price.
Counselor Rigney, we're just asking them to go forward and get research done to find out the price.
with a show of
Right.
hands.
Not at that price.
I don't have the price. What price do you have that on my budget?
15K for the plan. Okay, evacuation materials.
Not at that price.
Sidewalks.
No.
We will all limit our input to our show of hands. The Second Avenue buckled sidewalks.
No.
Palmer, is that a yes or a no? Okay.
Mayor, I can't see everybody, so can you let me know the
Yes.
yeses and the nos, please?
I'm watching everything.
Okay.
The downtown plant project.
No.
Bill? We're doing show of hands. Thank you.
Bill is not on camera, so he has to do it vocally.
Oh, is that it? Okay. Library park improvements.
No.
The library park improvements, is that power? Is that what we're saying? That's what we're,
I think that's the two items down, Danielle.
Well,
and I'm a no on that.
Okay, so one more time.
these came in at two different times, and I wrote them down as people called in. So one was talking about general improvements in the park, and the other one was more specific about lighting and electricity in the park. So general improvements, I really couldn't articulate what that is other than making it look nicer.
So
Just wanted to
if we
clarify.
could re-vote on that because I thought we were talking about the electricity.
Okay, so general improvements to the library park.
No.
And lighting electricity for the library park.
No.
Picnic tables along the walking trail.
No.
Powerhouse abatement and renovation.
No.
So Jessica, of those, which did you see we had support for?
So I saw support for getting more research on the evacuation plan and evacuation materials,
Yep,
fixing the buckled sidewalks on Second Avenue,
yep.
and lighting and electricity for the library park.
Yeah.
Am I wrong, or are the sidewalks on Second Avenue not an ODOT thing? They don't belong to us, right? Isn't that right?
Yeah, ODOT built them, but then they turned them over to us.
So Jessica, when they were doing, they pulled up and trimmed some trees a year ago or so. That was ODOT crew who did that work.
Yeah,
Do you recall that? We had input from Can-Do. Can-Do did not want to remove any trees. They assured us that they would trim them up and keep them all neat.
well, I'm sure that regardless of who owns the sidewalks, if the trees are hanging over their highway, they're gonna trim them. They trim them in private yards. They trim any trees
Yeah.
if it's hanging over their highway. So,
My point being that we've already had some sidewalk work done on that area and ODOT did it. So I'm guessing that's in their purvey.
no, they built the sidewalks, you are correct, and then they gave them to us. So they're
I
ours.
got another question.
They,
Wait, he's Larry.
go ahead. Well,
Go ahead, Ron.
okay.
Okay, it was my understanding, doesn't the county own the library and the property it's sitting on?
Half of it, half of the park belongs to us.
Okay.
So
So
that's why we
what
wanna
half
put
belongs
electricity-
to us, and how can we coordinate and get power in on that? What I'm looking at is, are we trying to ask the county to install power on the county side? or-
No, we already asked them that and they said no. We want to
Okay.
put our own lights and electricity on our side of the park.
Yeah, that was information I didn't have. That's why I couldn't give you a good vote on that. I didn't know. So, thank you.
Danielle.
So I would just like to bring up on the Swede storm drain repair that I would really like Jerry and Jessica to look at the budget, because we transferred $50,000 into the public safety fund from the storm drain fund. So we had that money. And I know there are additional issues with the funds that I would really like you guys to look at and get that clarified. Because even if we only fund half of the storm drain repair from the storm drain funds, that's what those collection fees were taken for. And it would be more appropriate to use the fees to actually repair the storm drains.
So the
And
two of
that
you
makes
will
total
check
sense.
into that.
And I did not transfer them yet.
Right, it's just, that's where it's budgeted from. So those funds, that $50,000 is actually in the storm drain fund.
It is, it would, wipe out our storm drain fund, so we wouldn't have much left over for contingency, but hey, that's how we roll in Gold Hill, right?
Like I said, if we only use 25,000 of the
Right.
funds that are in there, then we would still have 25,000 in contingency and only use 25,000 of this, which is our one-time fund. Then we might be able to afford some of the more expensive items on this list and use the fees for what they're for.
So
Yeah.
Jerry, you'll take
Good
another
catch.
close look at that and see if we need to use these funds. My understanding from your conversations before was you just didn't see it in the budget to spend 50 or 60 to fix the Swede problem.
Yeah,
Being
and
that they're our biggest employer in town, we've got to deal with this.
Right.
We
But-
cannot.
Counselor Hinckley has a great point. We can, save some of this grant money for something else by using half of the funds that we have and half of the grant money.
So you've got a pared
Right.
down list, Jerry and Jessica, if you would please do some legwork and dig up some specifics and I like the idea of having a budget committee meeting prior to a general council meeting. So can we do that 2 weeks out? 6 o'clock budget meeting, 7 o'clock council?
we can. It's up to you guys.
It's 5
that'd be
o'clock,
November
5 o'clock
1st.
budget meeting, 6 o'clock
Sorry?
councils. 5 o'clock budget meeting, 6 o'clock council is what we usually do.
Yeah, so
Okay.
and that'll be on November 1st.
Even better.
Okay.
Good.
I
Well-
I also agree with Daniela's suggestion there on the Swede stuff. So it's a good idea.
Good.
Yeah, I was wondering if you could send out a list of the items that you are going to do further research on to us, so we all are on the same page,
Yep,
please. Thanks.
certainly.
Mhm.
Is tomorrow morning okay?
Oh, no, how about, let's see,
No, please stay.
could you do it at 7:50?
You got it.
Now
I'll be
you know
meeting on
what
my
I
desk
go
by
through.
6.
Right?
Any other parting shots, comments we want to put into the record?
Parting shots, yeah.
When are we going back to live meetings at City Hall?
Jerry?
I'm not sure we could talk about that because we're limited to budget sessions, but that's really up to you guys. Probably something, if you want me to put it on the council agenda for a next meeting, we can do that.
Please do.
I think we need to follow the governor's guidelines that says that,
We have, to.
Um,
Yeah, sure. That's why we've done what we've done to date.
thank you.
And that's why we deferred to Jerry, because he's in contact there.
Yeah, I'd rather just keep everything legal. I don't want
What
to
concept?
violate any open meeting laws. So the purpose of this meeting was to talk about the budget. So I really don't want us to get into a discussion about open meetings. If you guys, again, if you're okay with us putting on the agenda for next council meeting, we can certainly discuss it then.
Thank you, Jerry.
You bet.
Anything else? Good work, lots of good ideas. We're drilling down into the nitty gritty here, and we're very fortunate to have this chance to fill in some gaps of things we need, but we could never fund them. So thank you, MRMPO. And
Happy Halloween.
happy Halloween.
Boo.
Budget is,
Yes, good night.
budget committee is adjourned.